My neighbors always ask me, "Hey Pete, how do you keep your yard so nice?"
Pete makes it simple with a Scott's Turf Builder feeding program. It's the best way to get the yard you want all year long, guaranteed. All it takes is 4 easy feedings. Just once in early spring, late spring, summer, and fall, providing nutrition and weed control to keep your lawn lush and green.
So, now you know my secret.
This is a Scott's Yard. Pick up a Scott's Turf Builder program today.
Vlad Jr.'s swing. Look at that. Like a clone of that.
No.
Dodger Stadium sewage. Look at that.
No.
Why?
No. Kevin Love's tooth. Look at that. Like a cartoon cat who lives in a dumpster, but he's already ready for Halloween. Let's go around the horn. Cartoon cat, lives in a dumpster, plays fish scales like a guitar.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reali.
Huge news in the NFL. We start there. Penalizing players who lower their helmets to initiate contact. Players and former players' response is loud and clear. I don't know how we're going to play the game. Ridiculous. Like giving a ticket for driving on the lane line, and this one, a bleeping mess. Why does the NFL want to self-destruct? The league's chief medical officer, quote, a very proud day for the NFL. National panel, I got to ask, has the NFL made things better or worse, easier or more difficult, saved players or self-destructed? Pablo Torre, start us off.
What the NFL is finding today is that people on all sides don't really enjoy the idea of a safer cigarette. Like, there are marginal improvements you can make to the product that can, in fact, make it a healthier product. But in terms of why people like it, this is the bed that they have made. And if you're looking at the responses from players here, I think it's notable that there are a lot of defensive players here. And safety, by the dynamics of the game, privilege offense. And offense privileges entertainment. And the NFL is an entertainment product. So do I have major questions in terms of what does this do to address, for instance, subconcussive hits, which scientific consensus tells us is more pernicious than the big-ticket concussions? Not really, no. But in terms of how this is playing out, this is all kind of predictable.
Israel Gutierrez?
Yeah, it's really difficult to say. Like, if you look at the projection of NFL and what's going to make it die, if you will, is it that the game isn't as physical as it was before, or is it almost literally players dying faster as a result of it? I'm going to go ahead and say it's the latter here. So I can't help but relate this to rugby when I think of it. And the idea that they play tackle rugby without any pads, without any helmets. Why? In large part because the idea is there's this universal idea, hey, bring the player to the ground, and that's how you tackle the guy. In the NFL, this is what they're trying to teach. They're reteaching tackling. Is it difficult, as you mentioned in your second question, Tony? Of course it's going to be more difficult, but that's part of the problem here. Yeah, it's a difficult job to play football, to play defense on football. But in terms of not tackling with your head down, or even as a running back, not putting your head down, there's a simple way to get over this whole concussion thing, or at least start to get over it, and this is the best way to do it.
Sarah Spain, when you hear players say this is ridiculous, the league is self-destructing, what do you say?
I'm not surprised. You're asking guys who have learned to do something one way and who have made millions of dollars and a lot of success doing it that way to suddenly change. And I agree, the beginning product and perhaps for a full year is going to be probably pretty terrible and pretty hard to decide whether it's consistent, right? There's going to be a ton of penalties. You're going to say on every single play, you could have called it there. Why didn't you? Especially in the box when you're looking at linemen or when you're looking at quarterback sneak. Why didn't you call that? It's going to be really difficult. But Izzy is right. In the end, the thing that will kill football is not adjusting to a rule change the same way you adjust it to forward passing or the tuck rule or any number of other changes that people thought were going to totally decimate the sport. The thing that would kill it is people not wanting to play anymore, youth football drying up, and people not wanting to watch because the more they understand the detriment that it has to the players, the harder it is to watch those hits and not be sickened by them. So the only thing that is worth noting is that Pablo is right. It's those little micro-concussive hits that they say it's the equivalent of having about 30 car wrecks a game. Those are not going to be fixed by this, but that doesn't mean we don't try to fix some of it.
And Woody Page?
I think it's a revolutionary, positive move by the NFL. I mean, the players who are reacting today are not thinking about their futures. They're thinking about now, which is expected. But do they want to be 15 years from now, 20 years from now, part of another major settlement with the NFL about CTEs? I don't think so. I think when we went through the era where crackback blocking was outlawed from the league, for years it was not taught, supposedly, by the coaches, but they violated that agreement. And the NFL has gotten along fine without crackback blocking. So I think this will happen. There are going to have to be decisions made between now and the next NFL meetings in May in regard to offensive and defensive linemen. They line up with their heads against each other. That's what they exactly do every play. So you can't make it an overall rule for everybody in the game.
Right, and you can't make it overall for defense because we see players with the ball lowering their head. You see quarterbacks in a quarterback sneak lowering their head. Pablo Torre, back in.
Look, one of the things that I want to make clear, I like boxing. I cover boxing. I am not above or beyond brutality, but the difference is the NFL has one consistent possible position here, and that is the players are aware of the risks. If they sign up for these risks as enumerated and they involve the helmet-to-helmet hits and all that, that's totally cool. But the problem is the NFL would never want to admit that. And that's why we're stuck between these two worlds.
Israel, last word after the horn.
If you look at the complaints from the defensive players, at least most of them, they still feels like they're complaining about helmet-to-helmet hits. When this is a bigger issue overall, it's about lowering your head, and it includes the offensive players as well. So it's a bit of a different argument than they're complaining.
One last question. Kickoff. Another point of focus. Can you see the league getting rid of kickoffs, Woody Page? Would it change the game?
Yeah, I think they should. In fact, it's been proven that that's the most dangerous play in all of football game. And even though they're great returns, it's not worth those returns on investment as far as I'm concerned. Just put it at the 25-yard line.
Sarah Spain?
Yeah, you're 5 times as likely to get a concussion on one of those plays, and so that's why I absolutely think they'll get rid of it. Do we lose out on something like Devin Hester, which brought a lot of joy to us? Yes. Do we get rid of onside kicks? Is that impossible then to get the ball back in those situations? It's tough, but I think they're going to do it.
A lot of questions, but maybe it's the questions they need to be asking in the NFL. We'll move on. Mel Kiper's mock draft right now. Quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, and 5. Woody Page, does 4 quarterbacks in the top 5 make sense in today's NFL?
In today's NFL, yes. The quarterback's value, using that word again, is so high in this league, and there are 6 teams that desperately need quarterbacks. So, of course, you're going to see them scrambling. Now, is it right overall? I don't think so. There are better players in the league that will become Pro Bowlers in the next year or two, and the quarterbacks, most of them will sit for a year or two. So, does it make sense, though, when you're Arizona and your quarterback's retired and you brought in another one with a bad knee? If you're the Broncos and you've got Case Keenum on a 2-year contract, if you're the Jets and the Giants vying in that market, you've got to have young, new quarterbacks. Sure. So it makes sense to these teams, but really, are all these quarterbacks going to succeed? Not in 1983, the year of the quarterback, not in other years. I mean, look at Mariota and Winston. Have they really developed as we hoped they would?
Israel Gutierrez, 4 quarterbacks in the top 5, tells you what?
I think it makes sense. First of all, it tells me the quarterbacks seemingly in this draft are actually good as opposed to the ones you have to reach for in other drafts. But I look at today's NFL and I see, yes, you can have the franchise quarterback, the Tom Brady, the Matt Ryan, the Peyton Manning, who obviously won a Super Bowl with Denver late. Or you can have the inexpensive, high-quality quarterback like the Russell Wilson, like the Carson Wentz, and then turns into Nick Foles, and you assume they'd still win it with Wentz. And so that's a formula that these teams are going to be able to find out. If their quarterback's good, they can build around him really quickly and win almost instantaneously.
Pablo Torre?
In the world of comic book movies, there's a term called fan service. It refers to when the director will put in stuff the fans like, even if it undermines the mission or the actual meaning of the movie. This feels like NFL fan service. We just had a series of playoff games, right? 4 finalists in the NFL. The one guy drafted above the 3rd round was Blake Bortles. At some point, we have to reckon with that idea that maybe fans love the quarterback, but just as likely is the reality that maybe we don't need to
Sarah
take them
Spain
at
is
this
shaking
price.
her head no. Go ahead, Sarah.
And
Get in there.
Speaking of action movies, Black Panther is one of the biggest selling of all time with a lead character that no one knew his name beforehand. So just because the name isn't there doesn't mean the quality isn't. And basically, Case Keenum had the same stats as Drew Brees. He just didn't have his name. Nick Foles outplayed Tom Brady. He just didn't have his name. So if you want to argue that in today's NFL you can't do it because the quarterback isn't as meaningful, then you're looking at names instead of stats. I absolutely think they should. With the rookie wage scale, it's still the best value in the first round. It's worth the risk. And I think the Browns should take a quarterback at 1 and 4 because we know they don't know how to pick them. So give yourself better odds to get at least 1.
Whoa. Browns taking a quarterback at 1 and 4? Israel, please, go after Sarah.
I mean, there's one way to do it to make sure you got the right quarterback, but in that case, you are also overvaluing the quarterback position there because you're taking 2 to make 1 when you could obviously get a high-profile player at a different position there. I don't know if that's worth the gamble.
Woody on Sarah taking a quarterback 1 and 4 if she's the Browns.
Well, there's not a chance at all. That would be the Browns saying, we don't know about this guy, so we better draft this guy, but we don't know about that guy. No,
which is what they always should do.
That is a stupid mistake. And they have new people in place there.
Pablo Torre?
The Minnesota Timberwolves tried something like this, right? They took 2 point guards, except because it was the Timberwolves picking, Steph Curry was not one of those point guards.
Can we think of a team?
The picks.
Can we think of a team that drafted 2 quarterbacks in the same draft? Washington recently at RG3 and Kirk Cousins, and they had great value out of RG3 for 1 year, but then the fact that they drafted another quarterback threw all of that up in the air and really messed up everything that they've done for the last 6 years. Wow.
Yeah, well, he was rookie of the year, and then they blew out his knee because they didn't use him right, so...
Either way, it was only one or the other.
Sarah, you're going to survive for now. We'll see how this plays out for you. Last topic here I want to get to. Baseball opening days tomorrow. This is our baseball preview extravaganza here. Who you got? Who you got? Who you got? But start with the Astros, please. Sarah Spain, no repeat champions in baseball in 17 years. What are the chances Houston can do it?
I'm going to say 75%. They bring back a ton of talent. They look great, but it's tough to do.
75%. Israel Gutierrez, how about you?
I'm going to put that at 49%. It's just obviously it's been a while. It's been, 17, 19 years since it's happened before. And it just feels like something could go wrong. Justin Verlander could have a down year. Maybe one of their other 2 or 3 aces that they have gets hurt. And maybe like in Cleveland or in LA takes over.
Pablo Torre?
I'm going to go 1 and 3 because there are 7 teams that could plausibly win this thing this year, right? You go Red Sox, Indians, Cubs, Dodgers, Nationals, but then the Astros and the Yankees. So I think it's the 5 teams I first mentioned, the Astros, the Yankees, 1 and 3 shot for the Astros to do.
Woody Page.
I don't understand his math whatsoever, but I will say 20%, and I think this is more simple. They're one of 5 teams that can win the World Series this year. That would mean 20%.
Okay. I mean, the champion has made the playoffs once in the last 5 years. Let's whip around real quick. Team that can, or player that can surprise this year. Pablo Torre, you got anybody?
I'm going to go with the Angels. I'm buying my Ohtani stock, and I'm somehow being able to buy Mike Trout stock. I think this is the year we actually start talking about him in substantive ways.
Gutierrez.
I go Hanley Ramirez. If you go the pattern of his career and you got him at first base, maybe doing some little Manny Ramirez imitation there, I think I've got Hanley.
Spain?
I think the Brewers, wild card contenders, a team that's going to move faster than we thought in terms of increasing their stock.
And Page?
I'm going with the Rockies here. They really improved their bullpen with Wade Davis. And they've got the young players, and the players specifically, Ryan McMahon. New first baseman. Remember him.
All right. Picks you, Meggie. Will the mute your take or the points you get? Give us a champion. Who you got? Pablo.
I am going with the Yankees.
Gutierrez.
Cleveland Indians.
Spain.
Cubs.
Page.
Dodgers just to upset Sarah.
Buy or sell on the other side. We'll be right back.
4 different
Ultra
champs.
server for the Yankees team chaplain. And that's
I thought Woody said, I don't understand his mouth.
State Farm, this is Bill.
It finally got me, Bill.
What's that, Rick?
The Clark Street crater, the mother of all potholes.
Oh.
Yeah, year after rim-wrecking year, it's tormented the people of this town. They try to fill it, but it always returns. It got me good.
But you know, State Farm's got you too.
You hear that? You ain't nothing!
You trash-talking a pothole?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm. Talk to an agent today.
Buy or sell.
Here's your tailor-made NBA debate of the day. LeBron, quote, I would vote for me. the body of work, how I'm doing it, what's been happening with our team, I would definitely vote for me. Woody, buy or sell LeBron telling everybody he'd vote himself MVP?
I'm buying it. If you don't believe in yourself, who else is going to believe in you? Except he's not going to win it, but he's trying to sell people on the fact that he's Meryl Streep. He should be right there every year for the award. And the thing about it is, he's won it 4 times, and his numbers are just a little bit better this year than they were then, but it doesn't matter.
I'm selling it. It's odd for me to see the multiple times throughout this season he's patted himself on the back in social media or acted like he needed to build up his brand. You're already the greatest, everyone knows. It's odd and uncomfortable to see you try to do it for yourself. And as far as what's been going on with his team all year, that includes him tanking a couple games so that he could try to get his roster rebuilt, which is not very befitting of an MVP or a guy with his legacy.
Khaleesi, hot fire. How about you, Gutierrez?
I'm sorry, Miss Spade. Did you not just say he's one of, if not the best player ever? I believe he has the right to say these things about himself.
I definitely did not say
Why
that.
should he be humble? And who was never humble throughout his career? Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, say whatever you want. I mean, if you were to ask him and he were to be honest, he would say every single time, every single year, I'm the best.
Spain is
I'm
not
the MVP.
allowing
It's LeBron
for
being honest. He deserves to
the
be honest.
invoking of Jordan's name here. Pablo Torre, make a ruling.
My ruling is based on the fact that I want transparency in this. We act like LeBron is the only one campaigning. Everybody is campaigning, but LeBron is just doing it out loud. Like GMs, coaches, agents, they all spend this time of year like it's Oscar season. They are lobbying. LeBron's just out here saying, I'm LeBron. Why is no one respecting LeBron? And he kind of has a point.
Sarah, in 5 words or fewer, can you explain the eye roll you gave Israel?
Not understanding Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech is a curse that continues to plague those
many
who
words.
wanted to see him differently as a player
Or
than
his
they did
entire
after he
career
retired.
then. How about that?
23 words.
You got the words out, now you got muted. We'll move on. Buy or sell 2, Isaiah Thomas hip surgery. His absolutely brutal year comes to an end. And we're just imagining where he was this time last season. Beloved in Boston, about to go on an all-time playoff run and free agency payday. To hurt, rehabbed, traded, hurt, surgery. Sarah, is there anything to take away from all this as it isn't all bad?
No, this is just life sucks and then you die. This is, you can't control everything, and sports are cruel. Sometimes you have everything in your hand and it falls apart, and I hope for him he can get a make it and prove it deal for 1 year and be somewhere where he finds himself again. But this has been really sad to watch.
Israel?
Honestly, no. I think this is a good thing. I think he's shown enough flashes during the year to recognize that, hey, he's still a really good player, but this is why he hasn't been himself. This surgery could allow him to return to the Boston form that he had before, and they can then back up the brink.
When we look back on this time, we will realize how much America loved making short jokes. Because this dude has so many things in his life in the last year and change that should make us wildly sympathetic. But because he is a little dude relative to everybody else, the memes. We prioritize the memes over the human interest. And I think it's kind of sad in retrospect.
Woody Page.
1 year I turned 56 and I said to my friend, I'm 56, and he said, you're 57. I lost an entire year. Isaiah feels the same way. He just lost a year and a half of his life. Move on, try and get better, try and get well, come back and be stronger.
Why does that? None of that story surprises me. That what he did. Buy or sell 3, New York Giants. They're publicly saying they're not shopping Odell Beckham, but reportedly shopping Odell Beckham Jr. Schefter, 2 first-round draft picks is what they'd be interested in. Israel, what's happening here with the shopping and not shopping?
I mean, it's a classic move. If you can get 2 first-round picks for any player, especially in a team that you don't expect to do much, you're going to go ahead and get it, even if it is a franchise player like OBJ. And when he comes with this baggage, you can justify that to the fans as well.
Pablo?
What's happening here is that we are isolating a particular variable, right? Because Giants fans, Lawrence Taylor, he's a legend. He produced all good. Odell Beckham seems like he doesn't like authority. He doesn't like the leadership of the team, and that makes him particularly dangerous. And if that's enough to knock his value down to where you want to get rid of the greatest generational receiver of our time, you are insane. That is what that means.
Greatest generational receiver of our time, Pablo just called him. Woody Page, how about you?
I don't know. Can we wait a little bit longer to see?
Didn't seem like Pablo was convinced after he said it either.
I don't think anybody's going to go for it. You give up 2 first-rounders for a quality quarterback, but not for a wide receiver who's involved in 15, 20 plays where he's actually touches the football, and you're going to have to pay him because he's not going to sign unless it's the most for a wide receiver in the league.
Sarah Spade.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're trying to put it out there to see if they can get more than what they want for it. And if they do, then they'll say it's worth it. We're in a rebuild mode. And if they don't, they could say, we never wanted to shop you. We always wanted you on the team. The risk is now whether he feels further alienated by the idea of his name being out there.
Exactly.
And even more problematic.
Exactly. Ooh, problematic. I heard that at the end there. That'll dock you a point, but it doesn't matter. Paige, Torre, taking a break right here. Dane Gutierrez, eye rolls coming in Showdown.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him,
Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash?
His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So, it was all good.
Spain Gutierrez Showdown. The New York Yankees banned from using foam images of players on beers. MLB is upset, Sarah. Overreaction, underreaction, or reaction from baseball?
Overreaction. It's a weird relationship between beer and sports for a long time here, but these are not players endorsing it. This is one place putting their face on something. I think it's a total overreaction.
I slightly agree, although this is the player's face on one specific beer brand. But if they can share the technology with all the other beer brands and have them on all the other beers, then they're not advertising any single thing. They're just advertising drinking at the game, and isn't that what it's all about?
Did you say you slightly agree, Gutierrez? This is your first Showdown? Point, Spade. Showdown 2, Vegas Golden Knights. The Knights vow! They're asking their season ticket holders to make a promise before buying playoff tickets. You will pay less, but you must Knights vow to not sell your seats to opposing fans. Israel, how's this going to go?
I like the idea of this storybook franchise in this first year and then making the playoffs and the fans really giving them a big embrace, but there's no city I associate less with fandom and more than making money off of sports than Las Vegas.
You haven't been watching because their fans have been incredibly dedicated since the first puck drop. It's been incredible, and I think a lot of them will buy into this because they want to prove to everyone else that they're good fans. Also, I once got a Knights vow at Medieval Times when I sat in the second row, and he never called me, so I don't know if it's going to work.
More Mountain Dew, my lady. Point. FaceTime, Sarah Spade.
So Johnny Manziel is apparently getting a good look from the Patriots. And I want to remind people that in the 800-plus days since he last played, we've seen a domestic violence dispute where he ruptured an eardrum. We've seen him put on a disguise in Vegas and skip concussion treatment. We've seen him get suspended. So any substance abuse issue that he would have if he got picked up by a new team would automatically be a year-long suspension. To me, the look that he's getting is insulting to guys like Colin Kaepernick and everybody else who's been watching.
We're off for tomorrow on opening day. We'll be back on Friday. See you there.
See ya.
The Knights vow.